I think we are about ready to get started. So good afternoon and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our third webinar in a series of TrustHab webinars. My name is Gemma Bissell. I'm the marketing manager for TrustHab, and joining me today is our product manager, Giulio Biceri. So today's topic is how to optimize vacant unit management. As many of you may already know, properties experience various high vacancy periods throughout each year, whether it be during the turn period or after a tenant's lease has come to an end. Despite these units being vacant, there's a lot that property staff need to keep on top of, whether it's completing move-out inspections or scheduling contractors to complete any necessary repairs or renovations ready for the next tenant. In today's webinar, we're going to discuss some of the ways that TrustHab helps you to efficiently maintain control of any units that are vacant and make sure the important things don't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, thanks, Gemma. And like she said, I'm Giulio. I'm product manager here at TrustHab. So in case you guys aren't all familiar with the TrustHab platform, we're a facilities IoT solution purpose-built for student housing, senior living, residential and commercial MDUs. Our platform utilizes IoT-driven smart devices to push actionable data back to property staff, allowing them to remotely identify when a potentially risky condition is present within a unit. Our solution empowers management teams with a more efficient way to manage vacant units and provides a proactive approach to maintenance problems, which enables them to significantly reduce costs and increase their overall NOI. For those of you interested, we do have a number of different use cases available for download for free on our website. So you can see some examples of how we've helped properties across the country reduce their costs and increase property NOI. Be sure to also check out the library of how-to videos available on our site, which are a collection of 90-second tutorial clips on the many different features available within our platform.
So there could be multiple reasons that a unit is vacant. Say a tenant has moved out and their unit is temporarily vacant while it's being prepped for the next tenant. In student housing buildings, this includes the turn period or during the summertime when school is obviously out. For MDUs, this could be when leases have expired. And for resorts and vacation homes, this could be the brief period of vacancy in between short-term rental bookings. Or maybe it's just a temporary vacancy period for an existing resident. So say they are on vacation or just away for the weekend. In student housing buildings in particular, this includes spring and winter breaks. So there are two common scenarios that can occur in vacant units. Scenario number one. So contractors that adjust the thermostat settings without remembering to revert them back. So during turn period or between leases, typically contractors are in and out of vacant units doing any necessary touch-up work before a new resident moves in. This is especially prevalent, of course, in student housing during the turn period. So if you can imagine, a contractor completing work, especially if it's during the summertime, is going to want their work environment to be nice and comfortable, which often means they will adjust the temperature to be as cold as possible. The majority of the time, they finish the work and leave the unit without remembering to revert the settings, leaving the AC unit blowing cold air to an empty room. This can happen across multiple units every day when there is widespread construction or property-wide updates that are being completed. And the reality is each unit isn't always checked on by staff immediately after a contractor has finished working. So the AC unit can be left blowing cold air for extended periods of time until someone eventually does go in and check the unit, which can be days or sometimes even weeks later.
Yeah, that's definitely right, Gemma. And there are many common problems that can result from an AC unit left blowing cold air into an empty room. It puts a lot of unnecessary strain on expensive AC equipment that could quickly lead to breakdown, especially if it was running in conjunction with a window open. If you had run it in conjunction with the window open and it happened to get cold, you could have frozen pipes as well. And all of these scenarios will likely cause you to need more maintenance visits to a particular unit. And of course, on top of all that, unnecessarily high utility bills and wasted energy. All that money and energy spent on keeping an empty unit at a cold set point is sunk cost and completely unrecoupable. Another scenario we see is that before moving out, tenants often turn thermostat completely off. They might be thinking they're doing the property a favor, or in the case of where the resident pays some or all of the utilities, the resident may figure that if they aren't there, they don't want to spend any extra money on utilities. In student housing, this can also happen when residents leave the room for winter break, spring break, or weekends back home. And we've seen that multiple times with our partners. They'll have residents leave the thermostat completely off, and that can make the unit uncomfortable for when they return, which of course then leads to the resident frantically lowering the temperature 10 degrees in an effort to cool the room as quickly as possible, which will then put more strain on the HVAC system. The unit can also reach unreasonably low or high temperatures, depending on the weather and environmental factors, as well as you can get high humidity levels in those units if the AC isn't running at all or no fan is blowing at all, which can lead to mold growth. And mold growth reportedly is one of the most expensive repairs that could happen to an MDU.
Unit isn't actively being lived in, it doesn't mean maintenance problems can't or won't occur. So some commonly undetected maintenance problems include leaking pipes, which of course can lead to extensive water damage to property, which is typically very expensive to remediate, mold growth or excessive humidity. So high humidity levels present a breeding ground for mold conditions. So if high humidity is in fact present in a residence, that's something you want to catch and address immediately. AC unit running excessively, which usually means it's having trouble reaching the temperature set point and can be occurring for a number of reasons. So that's also something you definitely want to check out as soon as possible. Windows that have accidentally been left open, which is of course detrimental to expensive HVAC equipment if in conjunction with a running AC unit, because the AC unit will never be able to reach the set temperature if it's continuously being countered by an open window. Fire, smoke, carbon monoxide, combustible gas detected, definitely an issue that needs to be addressed ASAP. Units getting too hot or too cold. This can be uncomfortable for residents and potentially dangerous for electronics if it does get too hot, or everything, including pipes, if it gets too cold. So now we're going to take a look at some of the ways that TrustHab helps to fix these.
And there are multiple features within the TrustHab platform created to help you save time and money in situations like this. It's time consuming for property staff to have to go one by one to check thermostat settings in person. They're too busy, especially during turn period, and be able to not be able to conduct walkthroughs. You can instead apply scheduled presets to roll out acceptable set points on any scheduling cadence you want, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, or something custom. Scheduled presets can be used to give yourself peace of mind, save energy, or keep lights on during a certain time of day. You can create a bundle of settings for any device type and schedule those changes to happen at any time and repeat on any interval. You could use this to schedule light switches or outlets to be toggled on or off at certain times, or schedule specific set points for your thermostats to roll to during certain hours of the day. For example, let's say we know the day building X over here is going to have some construction done. You might want to roll some specific set point ranges that are allowed and lock down certain thermostats. That way, there's no need to worry about having to remember to make changes on a certain day. With scheduled presets, you can create your settings bundles and schedule them out as far in advance as you want. Scheduled presets can be rolled out to as wide a scope as a property or suite of properties, or to as narrow as a building or a unit. You can even omit certain units from a scheduled preset, so you only make changes to the devices you want to update. You can also make changes to some or all of your deployed devices on the fly at any time using the bulk edit feature. You can lock thermostats or set cooling minimums and heating maximums. Setting devices to auto mode lets you know units will never get too hot or too cold or run too often. You can leverage the bulk edit feature to remotely revert thermostat settings as often as necessary. And with bulk edit, we're able to easily change any and all settings on any deployed devices across an entire property, all with just a few clicks. So let's say, for example, we know that building X over here, no residents staying in it due to the current situation. There's no need to keep all those units so cold. So you might as well save some energy and save the environment a little at the same time. You can easily select any or all of the units in that building, fire the bulk edit feature, and change all these thermostats to a different climate mode or set point. But also, this feature is not just for thermostats. Any deployed outlets or switches, and enable or disable them as desired with the touch of a button. Once your bulk edit is fired off, the selected devices receive the command and update within just a few seconds.
Thank you, Julio. So in summary, the TrustHab solution provides real-time equipment monitoring. So historical data and analytics give property staff insight to device activity across all of their buildings, so they can easily spot when a potentially risky condition is present within an individual unit. For example, the analytics portal will pick up when an AC unit has been running for an abnormal amount of time, which of course can indicate something as simple as a window having been left open. Ambient temperature and humidity level monitoring. So say if the temperature is beginning to rise in a particular residence, when the AC unit is showing to be cooling, your staff will know that something definitely needs checking. Remote detection of potentially abnormal conditions. So this eliminates the need for property staff to rely on tenants to call in and report a problem, thereby reducing time to resolution with many of the maintenance issues that do occur. Reduction of man hours. So what we mean by this is it's no longer necessary for staff to go door to door to inspect units in person when it comes to maintenance problems. You can revert any and all thermostat settings for multiple devices from within the platform if need be. So here you can see a list of the different kinds of alerts that TrustHab offers. I'm going to talk a bit about the HVAC-centric alerts specifically, which are all fully configurable. You're able to select the recipients of each of these alert notifications, so you can make sure that the correct person is being notified about a particular issue. So the excessive runtime alert. By default, it's set to trigger after 3 hours of consecutive runtime. This is usually indicative of a unit needing maintenance, like changing a filter or cleaning the coils. The resident running HVAC with a window or door open, or trying to achieve a set point that is unobtainable based on environmental factors, or the room may need more insulation or weather stripping. Inefficient unit is triggered if a unit is running for a high percentage of time. The default alert levels are triggered at 65% running over 24 hours and 80% over 24 hours. Percentage and time to track are configurable, so you can really tailor this one to the needs of your property to help call out any outliers and HVACs that likely are in need of maintenance. Extreme cold and extreme heat have temperature-based thresholds. The appropriate alert is fired when the ambient temperature is detected as surpassing the threshold. Defaults are 60 for extreme cold and 85 for extreme heat. Excessive humidity. This one has been extremely useful for our partners in helping them find units that need insulation or weather stripping. High humidity over an extended period of time, of course, can cause major issues, promote mold growth, and our platform helps notify you before it becomes an issue, so you can take the appropriate measures to make sure to get the humidity levels back down. Unit not heating or cooling are triggered if the ambient temperature in a room starts trending in the opposite direction of where it's supposed to be. This has been useful not only in diagnosing HVACs that may need maintenance, but has also been helpful for our partners in allowing them to figure out how warm or cool their HVACs can get a unit to in practice.
Yeah, definitely. And in addition to alerts, you have total visibility over your deployed devices with our platform, especially in dashboard and analytics modules. These allow you to continuously monitor device activity throughout your entire property or suite of properties. Analytics that are measured include your unit's runtimes, ambient temperature and humidity levels within each residence, as well as the ability to compare units' AC activity with that of others. So that way you can tell when a particular unit is showing signs of abnormal activity. You can also compare a unit's AC activity with the same unit in a previous time scale. So that way you can see if that particular unit's been degrading over time. You can also get insight into individual buildings and how well ambient temperature is being tracked in comparison to the set points. You can view the overall health of your location by looking at the property level, building level, and seeing those averages. The dashboard gives you your 30,000-foot view of your property at a glance. It allows you to see everything at a corporate or property level or drill into a specific building or unit. You can see climate modes and running statuses, but the most actionable metrics here are the runtime and cycle widgets. The best examples of potential cost savings have been locating and remedying the units that are running excessively. The initial 24 hours after an installation shows you really which units struggle to reach their set points, if they even reach them at all. Those units have likely been running like that for months, if not longer. And you'll be able to easily see your property and building runtime averages, so you can locate the units which are outliers and likely need more maintenance. Runtime data also allows us to project savings if you set hard cooling minimum and heating maximum set points. And this can correlate directly to a percentage of runtime savings. And with TrustHab, you can monitor your property with continuous remote equipment monitoring, including real-time notifications, as Gemma pointed out, with the alerts, which allow maintenance teams to look into potential issues as soon as they happen, instead of needing to wait for tenants to call in and report them, which gives you the ability to prioritize problematic units. Typically, routine maintenance checks are performed based on a schedule. If you notice an HVAC in a particular unit maybe isn't performing as well as the others, a maintenance manager could prioritize that unit on the inspection schedule, making sure that it's serviced in a timely manner. You can also make sure the right personnel receive the right alert by configuring and managing the recipients of each alert. Alert recipients are fully customizable per alert type and severity, so specific team members can be alerted depending on how you configure your alert. Maybe the whole maintenance staff gets a high humidity alert when it surpasses the initial threshold of 65%, but maybe the property manager gets notified when it surpasses 80%. Alerts get to the appropriate personnel faster than it takes for a resident to recognize a potential issue and notify maintenance. And all of this allows you to know before you go. Being able to identify an issue prior to even entering a residence helps staff pinpoint exactly what needs to be done and prepare accordingly, rather than having to waste time trying to diagnose an issue in person upon arrival.
Thanks, Julio. So we know that there is a lot that comes with managing the daily operations of any building, and our solution was purpose-built to provide teams with the tools they need to optimize the efficiencies of many of the day-to-day tasks, vacant unit management being one of them. We hope this webinar gave you some valuable insight to this. And of course, if there's anyone out there that would ever like to take a more in-depth look at our platform, feel free to reach out to us and a member of our team would be more than happy to give you a demo. We're now going to move along to the Q&A portion of the webinar. We have 4 questions that Julio is going to answer for us today. And for anyone else that is still with us, there's still time to submit any of your questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. So question number 1, what is the best way to save energy in vacant units that you have seen in practice?
Yeah, we suggest to all of our partners that they roll out some settings to their devices based on best practices. And what that means is we don't want the unit to get too hot or too cold, but we don't need it to keep a unit, let's say down here in the South in Florida, to 70 degrees, for example. And in practice, that usually looks like changing thermostats to auto modes with some set points based on the region. Like I said, I'm in Florida, and our weather's actually been surprisingly temperate most days. We haven't hit our full summer stride yet. So setting a thermostat to auto with a cooling set point of, say, 78 and a heating set point of 65 means that if the unit's vacant, you'll be maximizing your energy savings, as well as making sure that the unit does not get too uncomfortable. Property managers can handle this workflow 100% remotely. At their leisure, they can roll out a bulk edit to any or all units, or set up scheduled presets to run daily, weekly, multiple times a day, whatever they need, and then they'll have their devices update as they desire.
Okay. So another question, we are using our internet activity to guess when a unit is occupied. We can typically confirm that someone is there, but confirming they aren't is harder. Do you have a way to confirm they are not there?
Yeah, that's a big one right now for sure. We've seen some of our properties are trying to guess this by seeing how bandwidth usage fluctuates or looking at how many devices are connected to the network in relation to how many they were in January, for example. But there's a few ways we can see when they aren't there. The easiest one is just by rolling out a change to all your units. For example, by setting the thermostats to set points that will maximize energy savings, cooling to 78. If the resident is there, they will typically make a change to adjust it to cool to a lower set point. You can roll out a change in the morning, and if by that evening or by tomorrow morning that unit's set point hasn't changed, then it's almost certain that the room is unoccupied. Also, for our properties that utilize our smart lock solution, you can see if the door lock has been activated, when it's been activated, and by whom. So you can see that for all your units, and that will really give you some insight into who is in those buildings.
Okay. A third question. If a resident is complaining about scheduled set point changes triggered by property management, what can you do to mitigate this?
Well, by design, the residents can always change, they always use their thermostat to make adjustments. Unless their thermostat is totally locked, their changes will always be allowed. If you send out a scheduled preset at 10 a.m. daily to change cooling set points to 78, if any resident in any affected unit wants a lower set point, they just need to change the temperature either directly on the device or through the resident's app. If there's a reoccurring issue with someone and you know it will continue to be, that's no problem. The unit can be easily omitted from any scheduled preset so that you can have these scheduled settings changes not impact that resident. Our best properties have their staff well prepared with answers that explain that this type of program is a critical part of their community's green initiatives and can usually get the resident to understand why the changes are taking place. Not only does this protect the long-term use of the equipment, but it's better for the environment as well. So usually that gives them the ability to convince those residents that they're doing these changes with the best in mind.
Okay, thanks, Julio. And final question. What savings have you seen on properties that restrict the maximum cooling and heating set points allowed?
Yeah, so this can vary greatly per property just based on geographic location, time of year, style of construction. As a general rule, we're seeing runtime savings of 15% and as high as 30% when we restrict set points to cut out those far edges of the spectrum that are hard to achieve. There's almost never a good reason to cool a unit to 62 or to heat it to 80. So once a property decides on an acceptable range that they want residents to adhere to, they're usually able to see the energy savings and maintenance savings start adding up shortly after instituting these changes.
Okay, so it looks like those are all of the questions that we have for today. And this concludes our webinar. So thanks again to everyone that stuck around until the end. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to us, contact@trusthab.com, and be sure to check out our website, trusthab.com, for more information on our facilities-based IoT solution. And as Julia mentioned earlier in the webinar, we have a library of resources for you to look at and also use case downloads as well. Keep an eye out for details on our next webinar. We will announce those within the next week or so, and we hope that everyone will join us for that one as well.